I wanted to ask you one I thought about the other day, because I was reading some comments on one of the videos, and I saw something and thought it was a really interesting point, and I really started thinking about it. Jim, when you look at AEW, and you look at all the problems they're currently having, there have been long-term problems that were ignored by a lot of people. Then now all of a sudden they're recognizing it. It's a little weird when the people who thought Tony was a good booker are now all of a sudden saying, well, maybe not so much, but the show's not radically different than it was other than when CM Punk was doing things. When you look at all the AEW problems this year, was Vince McMahon retiring/resigning the worst thing that happened to AEW?
You know what? Yes. In short version, I think it may have been, because, go back 3 years or 4 years now, if it's been, or whatever, to the first All In, right? Before there was an AEW. And everybody was amazed, and they attributed this, a quick sellout and huge gate and blah, 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 to the appeal and the notoriety and the drawing power and etc. of the elite, right? That's, oh my God, these guys. And then everybody started making offers and etc., etc. What did I say at the time? I said go ahead.
I was going to say, what I remember you saying was, this is the biggest crowdfunding.
This is the biggest crowdfunding event in wrestling history. The idea and the appeal was that the really hardcore fans, the amount or number, give or take, that watch AEW television now, that most dedicated and vociferous group, they are pissed off because their favorites have been maligned and mistreated by the evil empire. I've been saying all along that the fucking Mr. McMahon was the greatest heel in wrestling, and since then that they haven't been able to get off the heel authority figure, that turned the company heel in 25 years. And that group of fans wanted to see, that's why they were indie fans, because they like the indies, because it's not Vincey. They wanted to see their favorite wrestlers that had either been held down by the evil empire of the WWE or had never been given a chance, or the darlings that they saw on the entertainment indies that they were watching instead of the WWE. But there was a massive backlash amongst that group over the idea that Vince McMahon had a monopoly on wrestling. And they smoked the hopium, and they wished, and they prayed, and they clutched their pearls, and they dreamed of the day that they could support somebody that was going to put Vince McMahon in his place. And then along came Tony Khan to do that. And boy, howdy. Well, then, and the sports-based presentation, and we're going to be wrestler friendly and fan friendly, and all the buzzwords, and the idea that the elite were now going to be the EVPs because they're the start of this revolution. They weren't the start of the revolution. They were the guys that were in the middle of it when they put together the crowdfund. That's the genius idea. Vince McMahon has so much heat that we will create a promotion solely owned and operated or manipulated or whatever by the wrestlers that aren't going to, and so that way the wrestlers won't get fucked around. That was the concept of it. And they took their built-in audience and applied it to that. And I said that also. I said, now what happens as this thing became a reality when the counterculture becomes the man? When it's not the wrestlers, getting all the money and doing it for themselves, and all those people that bought a ticket to see Chicago knew it was going right into Cody's pocket and into the Bucks pocket and Twinkle Toes pocket, whatever. Now there's a billionaire involved, but Tony was markish enough in his appearance to appeal to that same fan base where they were going to give him a chance because they were smoking the hopium and they didn't want to hear anything different. And that still was mostly the case until at the same time that instead of the 7-year itch, he started getting the 3-year cracks, because that's how long it took for all this festering in AEW's locker room and cliques and different divisions and thoughts on what the business ought to be and no leadership, blah, 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 started festering, combined with all of a sudden Vince catches on fire in public. I mean, anybody that was mad at Vince, the heat is off of him now because he was taken down, exposed as a prevert, and run off. And now the friendly wrestler son-in-law that championed all of this same kind of audience's favorite wrestlers, up to and including Johnny fucking Gargano.
And whose placement as an EVP is the only reason these guys wanted to be EVPs in AEW.
Exactly, to counteract that. Now, the fans that were livid over the idea that Vince McMahon was going to be doing all this to their favor, they ain't mad at Vince anymore because he's gone. And now they kind of remember, well, yeah, but he did kind of bring us all that great stuff. And at the same time, they're not mad at Triple H because he hadn't fucked anybody around. He's trying to bring most of them back that got fucked around and having considerable success. William Regal, by the way, hold on one second. Another in Brian Last's category, William Regal will be starting soon. So that's what's happened. The heat is off the entity that created the backlash that caused a core group of people to want to see another promotion of any kind to happen. And the promotion of any kind that happened as a result of that backlash is falling apart because people didn't objectively look and say, oh, this guy's never done any of this before, so why should we think he can't? And there you go. So, yeah, Vince leaving is the worst thing to happen to AEW this year. That's because, honestly, I mean, the cracks were going to be exposed and the ill will and bad feeling amongst people behind the scenes and blah, blah, blah. And as you mentioned, when the first EVP would leave, it would be Cody, and it was. But at least they still had, it's like the fucking Republicans. They still, well, we may be running ahead of Broccoli, but it could be worse. It could be a Democrat in that seat. So AEW always had, well, they could go and work for Vince McMahon and get turned into Max Dupree or whatever the fuck. But now some of the wrestlers that same group of fans likes is going to be featured again by the benevolent son-in-law, and the Empire ain't so evil anymore. And a lot of the wrestlers that didn't want to trust their careers to Vince McMahon in whatever state of mind he had gotten in at this point in his life, they sure don't mind letting Triple H give him a shot, especially if he's already expressed that he likes him to begin with. But they feel more confident or safer if they have any confidence in their own abilities. They would be more confident that Triple H would see that. So yeah, Vince leaving did not do Tony Khan any favors this year when he's got all of his other shit going on.